Hello my dear friends, welcome to Canadian Immigration Channel. This video is about proof of funds. We'll talk about federal stage, about provincial one, with respect to what is new in 2020. First and foremost, remember we spoke before. If you didn't know it, well, here are news for you. Proof of funds are determined by low income cutoff. In other words, that is the absolute minimum for you to survive in Canada divided by 2. So that is LICO, low income cutoff, divided by 2. And this is how the number is determined by Stats Canada. And that is what you have to have in your account if you're looking to relocate to Canada. Well, technically, this absolute minimum will allow you to really survive for 6 months in Canada without supplementary support if you spend your money wisely. We used to have this calculation on our YouTube channel. If you're looking to check it out, how you could live, how you could survive, what it is, and so on and so on, watch the previous videos where we spoke about proof of funds and how to use this proof of funds upon your arrival to Canada. Now, speaking about the updates, we are in 2020 and LICO was recalculated with according to the reality. It has grown up and quite frankly grew up substantially compared to previous years, which tells again us about where this federal government liberal government is pushing us to, because I don't remember for the last few years proof of funds this LICO been growing up more than $200. This time it's about $500 up, which for the family of 3 comes down to 19,000, if I remember it correctly, 19,836. Correct me if I'm wrong, but point is it's almost $20,000, and if you compare it to the previous year, it grew up substantially. And again, considering that is LICO divided by 2, so overall this minimum amount of money for the family to survive in Canada grew up by $1,000 a year. That again, it's a question to our federal government, to our wonderful re-elected prime minister. Haven't voted for him, but bottom line, be assured that you need this amount of money in your account when you're submitting your documents for permanent residency in Canada. Now, another point here is the question we receive over and over again when it comes down to this proof of funds for federal government. Somewhat people get confused about 6 months transactions history, though I'm not really sure how you could read it differently when it clearly says that you have to provide 2 documents. One of them is your bank statement stating that you have X amount of money corresponding to your family composition, right? That's what you have to have in your bank account. The other one is your transactions history. So transactions history for the last 6 months showing what was going on with your account for the last 180 days roughly, right? Now, it does not mean, and I'm not really sure where people get this information, that this 6 months, all this period, money should be in your account. All it says is we have to see what was happening with your account for the last 6 months. You could read it in only possible way that they want to know what was going on. So if that was complete zero and at the very last day you deposited $100,000 in your account, you gotta have explanation where money are coming from. So you sold your property, you got a bill of sale, you got your transactions receipt, and you can confirm that this property was valued for $100,000 and that's the amount which was deposited in your account. That is perfectly fine. So money should not be sitting in your account for 6 months. Another example, you had 0 6 months ago, and gradually over time it accumulated to the amount of money you have to show to federal government because you were depositing them as your salary, right? That's perfectly fine as well, because again, like federal government officers want to understand what was happening with your money in your account, where they're coming from. So they are not borrowed from somewhere else. That is one side of a story. Another side of a story I want to touch the base very quickly today is Saskatchewan. So with respect to Saskatchewan Provincial Nominee Program, this is probably the only province which is very, very picky when it comes down to proof of funds. Many of you have heard it already on our channel. I told you about it. With some of you, we've discussed it personally, face to face. So when it comes down to application for Saskatchewan Provincial Nominee Program, which was quite popular at the second half of 2019 and hopefully will be still popular in 2020, right? Saskatchewan wants to see that not only you have this amount of money by the time you're making your application to Saskatchewan, not to federal government yet, but you have this amount of money 3 months before submitting that final application. Considering that after selection, after invitation to apply of Saskatchewan, you are given 60 days to prepare your documents, which is roughly 2 months, right? You have to make sure that money are in your account at least 1 month prior to the application. But it doesn't mean that necessarily all this money should be in your account when Saskatchewan is actually allowing you to demonstrate that money were in the form of mutual funds, money were in the form of life insurance, but you have to have value of this life insurance and demonstrate that this life insurance could actually be cashed out. So this money could be liquidated, right? And surprisingly, you could demonstrate to Saskatchewan value of your stock investment portfolio. And they're saying it's quite possible, though I've never actually had a real case where one of my clients had this amount of money in their stock portfolio and we were able to convince Saskatchewan that this is enough and sufficient enough for them. So bottom line anyway, Saskatchewan is claiming that stocks portfolio will be accepted as well. Now, another point, last but not least, if you will, when it comes down to Saskatchewan application, please be very mindful that money should be sitting in your account or your TFSA or your mutual funds or stocks, whatever, for the whole period of your application. If the processing time of Saskatchewan right now is roughly about 27 weeks, you should be able to have this amount of money in your account for 27 weeks and portfolio should not be changing. So when it comes down to stocks or bonds, make sure that they do not depreciate in its value, right, for the period of Saskatchewan processing. Because if they see that there was this gap, even if it was for a few dollars, you might be refused mercilessly just because, well, despite then again the fact that it has nothing to do with you personally and it's not your personal fault. If you would like to discuss with us face to face what to do in a particular situation, or you got a question with respect to proof of funds, feel free to ask it in the comment section below the video, or you could always send us an email and we'll be absolutely glad to help you out. Stay tuned with us and of course subscribe for the channel.